What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Justin Davis. Today I have the Eachine EX4 Pro here. This is extremely similar to the C-Fly quad that we've seen out there that is exactly the same. I believe it's the Faith, and there's also another one, JJRC's X12, very similar drone. And some of you guys might be wondering, should I buy this or should I buy the DJI MAVIC Mini? Well, you should probably buy the MAVIC Mini, but it's a little more expensive. So that's why on my channel, I like to review stuff that's cheaper, because this drone with GPS, return to home, 1080p video, and a stabilized gimbal is going to set you back about $200. So I think that's a good price for what's in the bundle. I got the 2 battery bundle, and I have the battery all charged up. We're going to go out and do some range testing with this one, because the Wi-Fi back to my phone actually works a lot better in the Pro version. So they have extended the range to about 1.5 miles, and I've also confirmed that it does work very good through trees and penetrates pretty well and doesn't lag up as much as the previous version. So I'm happy to tell you that after we do the flight test, we'll come back in and we'll take a little closer look at the EX4 Pro. Here we go. All right guys, let's go ahead now and let's get this EX4 Pro up in the air, and let me show you the video quality. We're just gonna fly out over the field right now, and you know, I can be super critical about drone video because I come from a professional video background, and this drone does have some vibes in it. You can absolutely see what we call jello. It does have some slight vibration to the video. If you're flying a really expensive drone, you'll see that everything is super clear and in focus. I mean, you can even see the leaves on the ground in some of these more expensive $1,000 drones. But position mode, if you want to fly it, it is a little bit slower, and I think it gets the best video in position mode. So here I'm just gaining a little altitude, and when you ascend and descend, you can see more vibes in the video, but that's pretty typical because you're flying through prop wash a lot of times. And these gimbals are quite light. They do sometimes have some vibrations in the video because of multiple factors. Vibration on the drone, environmental factors like wind, and it can kind of make the gimbal shake a little bit, and that translates to the video. So this one does have a CMOS sensor in here, and it looks way better than some of the other drones I've had in the past that are at the $200 level. So I think for your bang for your buck right now, the EX4 Pro is really high up in the marks. But make sure that you calibrate your compass. If you start to see it fly in a circle, this was an extreme durability test, and the good news is that it survived that crash in the grass. If I'd hit the pavement, I probably would have broke the gimbal. But here's the gimbal after the crash, still working out. So however they have the arms going over to where it connects in the front and the back, and the shrouding around the gimbal is actually pretty good. So the gimbal's still working perfectly even after a pretty fast crash. That was a pretty fast hit for something like this drone. It looked like an FPV race drone going in for a smackdown. But I'm also interested, this is the end of the day, that this one didn't need an ND filter on the front. And we could probably get rid of a little bit of those blues somehow with maybe a little bit of a yellow filter. But you can play around. There are some filters out there, I believe, for the EX4 Pro series. They are pretty popular. You might check with Freewell. Freewell does make some pretty awesome filters. But look at those fall colors out here. It picks up a lot of the fall colors pretty well. And the biggest thing I was happy with was the range on here. So past toy drones that I've had Wi-Fi 5.8 on, I have a brand new iPhone, have never made it out to this side of the field, across that frog pond, and over to this second road over here. So I was getting kind of nervous being this far out with it, you know, 2 or 3 football fields away. I'm still getting perfect reception to my iPhone. So that's the really good news, is that this drone has decent video, great upgraded transmission, to the phone. And if you have some problems with your Wi-Fi, a tip for you guys on your phone is go into your Wi-Fi settings, click on that Wi-Fi for ground that's connected to your drone, and renew the lease. Renew it 3 or 4 or 5 times, and then go back to the app and then do your flight. Because sometimes that will help refresh it. And I was interested to see how this drone would perform pointing into the sun. I think it did a little better than I was expecting. I was expecting a total whiteout, a total blowout, but it did okay. It's not a Mavic Pro by any means, or a Mavic Air, but it's not bad for 200 bucks. I just keep thinking $200. And again, I'd recommend the C-Fly app. That's the one you want to download to use for the EX4 Pro. And there's that fantastic farm right there. So let's go ahead back into the house and let me give you a final opinion on the EX4 Pro and what I'm really thinking about it. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back from the break. So the EX4 Pro, well, it's a lot better than the previous versions, and it's performing better than some of the C-Fly stuff I've had in the past. I've flown pretty much every C-Fly drone that has come out. That company's been very nice to the channel, and they've sent us a lot of their drones. But also JJRC, I started doing that maybe over 5 years ago. That company's been around a long time making toy drones. And this is kind of like the borderline crossover between like toy drone and something that's going to be more substantial and get you some decent video. When you get up to the $200 range and above these days, you can start to expect some decent video. So that's a good thing, because years ago it was $500 plus to get decent video and $700 plus. So now we're actually starting to get somewhere with that borderline toy drone sort of, I would say, consumer grade drone. And it's nice now that the EX4 Pro has the app control that is fairly good. I would say that it's tiny bit laggy. I fly FPV racing quads, so for me, Wi-Fi video always looks laggy unless I'm flying full-blown DJI, not the Wi-Fi DJI like on the Mavic Mini. It does lag on the Mavic Mini as well. That's 5.8 Wi-Fi, and this one's also on 5.8 Wi-Fi. And strangely enough, it was interfering with a friend of mine who was flying FPV on his plane that day. So Tom, sorry about that. But once we turned his plane off, this one started behaving better as well. So there was some strange interference between both the 5.8 on his plane and this particular quad. So if you take this to a race somewhere, don't fire it up around a race. But that's the experience that we had. So it might be different for you guys, but I felt like the power system on here in the manual mode, what we call the altitude mode, was nice. When you take positioning off, it flies a lot faster. And in GPS position mode, if you really just want to cruise and get some nice straight ahead shots, this drone is good for that. I feel like it does better straight ahead shots instead of your turning shots. It doesn't really pan that well. The quality kind of suffers when you start to pan. The controller could be maybe upgraded next time to have a little better stick response, because the sticks still feel, on the yaw axis, they still feel quite a bit robotic. So that's one thing as far as my takeaway goes on this drone for this review. But I feel like the flight time is also there. We have now around 25 minutes flight time on my testing. And since I have 2 batteries, it's nice. So I can get plenty of flying in with this. And this one's gonna handle more wind than the Mavic Mini. There's a lot of reports out there, people flying a Mavic Mini out on the coast where if you have over a 20-mile-an-hour wind, sometimes it has a really hard time coming back, especially if you're flying over the water, so be careful doing that. But this one is foldable. It has some decent bells and whistles. I think that modes at this point, like waypoints and orbit mode and all that stuff that's on here, I leave that for the other guys to test out sometimes. I'm more concerned with video quality, because generally that's what I do. I do the cinematic drone flying, and orbit mode is just kind of gimmicky at this point, but just depends on the shot you're trying to achieve. But not really my cup of tea. I just like to get out there and make some nice cinematic video. So I think the video looks pretty decent on this one, and for the price, not bad at all. Not bad. JJRC, C-Fly, or Eachine, or whoever made this one. Good job on this one. I had fun with it, and the flight time is good too. Good flight times and good video. Makes this one a good one to buy, so I would trust it, and it's doing pretty good on the C-Fly app. That's the one I would suggest you guys fly. So thanks again for watching my channel and playing around with me with this new drone here, the EX4 Pro. Guys, I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Be safe out there.